6:33. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. It's Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018, and we will stand for the pledge if you'll, nobody can join us. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Roll call, Randy.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard and Legal Counsel Roger Zappa. No committee members or public present at this time.
Not even the newspaper tonight. So we don't have public comment, which means we won't have board member comment in response to public comment. So we're down to the consent agenda. Randy, do you want to actually pull that letter out that they requested to read?
No, it can be, it's in the consent agenda. It can be read in the
In there?
consent agenda.
Okay. And I think that was it for the consent agenda, no other changes. Okay, so I'll read this. Tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of the regular meeting minutes of June 5th and the work session minutes of June 26th, which was policy governance review. Bills payable tonight in the amount of $197,332.51. We have a progress billing on 2017 Schwemmwood Park. Received committee and other reports, Recreation Committee draft minutes of June 19th, utility billing calendar for July, the supervisor's report. Correspondence not requiring board action is recycling memo from Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority. And we will read the letter from resident regarding noise from Marquette Energy Center.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the resident that would like his letter read into the record is Tom Ogle. He says, the letter reads, I live in the township at 2433 Huron Street. I'm writing today to inform the board that not everyone in the Huron Street area has a problem with the Marquette Energy Center. I often sit on my front porch in the summer and have not heard any noise from the Marquette Energy Center. I can hear traffic on Wright Street, and I can hear the LS&I ore trains, but nothing from the MEC, which is the Marquette Energy Center. Additionally, I have not felt any vibrations as described in Monday, June 25th, 2018 Mining Journal. I lived in Marquette long enough to remember when the steam plant was built in South Marquette. The residents of South Lake Street and Shirus Hills were raising the same concerns as some residents of Huron Street are. That is noise, pollution, and loss of property values. As far as I can determine, there are more houses along South Lake Street and Shirus Hills than there were before the steam plant was constructed, and I truly believe that their property values have risen considerably in that time. I guess those residents have learned to live with it. Perhaps the complainers from Huron Street should be given that advice. Finally, the few complainers from Huron Street do not reflect the opinion of the majority of the residents living on or near Huron Street area that I've talked to. Respectfully submitted, Tom Ogle, 2433 Huron Street.
Thanks, Randy. Okay, yes, John.
Can we have the manager give us a tally of the number of complaints we've received? It's 18.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't have all of those with me. They've all been transmitted to Mr. Carpenter, and all except the last two that came in. Did you not? All except the last two that came in have also been provided to the folks that were here at the last meeting. The last two went to the board, including this one, and to Mr. Carpenter. I think it's a total of 18 to 19.
18, 19. Thank you.
Okay. And I need approval of the rest of the agenda, but we are going to make one addition. and it'll be 7E. 30-acre parcel purchase on Well Road. That's the memo that you got in your mailbox from Kirk. So we will discuss that, if we can have approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
That'll be 7E.
Right. Okay. Community linkage. We don't have anything specifically, but I do want to comment for 1 second on Senate Bill 1031. I went to the meeting Monday morning that Marquette Township had, the supervisor put together on Senate Bill 1031. And it's regarding the personal property exemption on business equipment. And this is mostly coming from the utilities, the utility companies. Senator Casperson was a co-signer or sponsor on this bill, and it has been put through, but he was also at that meeting with his aide and Representative Cambenzi, and he wanted us to know that this is not the bill that he signed on to. It was his understanding that there would be no financial impact. It would be revenue and expense neutral with his with the proposal, the general proposal. So he said he will be fighting this. He was going to go back whenever they do end up going back. I don't know what their date is. And the idea is the impact that this is going to would have, as it's written now, reduces state and local property tax revenue, which is what we participate with or are allowed to receive. And they're thinking it's a 54.8% increase to the taxable value, 4.2 billion that's going to be brought in. But this is, Treasurer Johnson can talk to that about the personal property, the effect that has on us. We would not be, as it stands now, we would not be reimbursed. It's one of those unfunded mandates. And the idea was that if a company decided they wanted to go and buy a bunch of equipment, that they would not have to pay the personal property tax on it. And their reason for doing this was to keep the costs lower for the residents. And I think that's kind of a misnomer. Again, Senator Casperson said that it was supposed to be neutral. There would be no increase and no decrease, so that's why he supported it. So I just wanted to kind of keep you up to speed on that. The two main people who are, the two main companies that are supporting Senator Proos, I believe is how you spell his, or pronounce his name, P-R-O-O-S. He was the main author of the bill. He is supported by Detroit Edison and Consumers Power, if you wouldn't be surprised about that. So, again, Senator Casperson's not too happy about it. So there were quite a few people there, 30 or 40 people, paper and the TV6, you may have seen something on it. But I did mention, almost everybody got up and spoke, actually. I mentioned that we've probably been the best example of problems financially from the tax tribunal, and this didn't strike me as being that much different from that ruling. I explained to the group that, we have to have we are considering a proposal to supplement the sheriff's contract, and we need a fire truck, as a lot of our cohorts did in the West End, had a millage for that. I explained the road millage and what our public is looking for. That's what we decided to do, $7 million project for 15 years. And I just said, we cannot continue to tax our people. That was the whole point of what I was trying to say, that this is just one more thing that they're saying it's going to be a decrease in rates, but apparently it's not. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. We'll see where that goes. Number 7, Policy discussion, consideration, and development. Tonight, we are to consider a Metro Act right-of-way permit extension from AT&T. Randy, do you want to explain that, or?
This stems from an act that the Michigan legislature passed a number of years ago, basically, called the Metro Act for short. It's a long descriptor that's a very short acronym for, but in essence, what it does is the state captures a fee from all of the utility companies for the management and administration and care of the right-of-ways that they fall through. That money is distributed to the local jurisdictions that have responsibility. For instance, the power lines and the gas lines that run through the township, if there's any kind of an issue along them, whether it's down trees or whether it's a brush fire or whatever, we are the responding entity. So those monies come to us. They're kept in a separate fund as part of your budget. You have a separate budget page under the utilities for Metro Act. And those are funds that we draw on for items such as when we bought the brush truck. It funded part of the brush truck because that is a piece of equipment that's used to care for and put out fires and things such as that along the utility right-of-way. So it's a long-standing agreement that we've been in. I recommend you renew it. We do get a relatively small amount of money, but it does offset some, and in some cases, all of our costs of caring for the right-of-way activities. So I would recommend that you approve it.
It looks like it's a 5-year permit extension to
Correct.
December 31st of 2023. Any questions for the manager? Randy?
I'll move to accept the agreement and authorize the clerk to sign the agreement.
Support.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 7B, consider approval of library ballot language. Oops. Talk about that, Randy?
Yeah, I think 2 meetings ago, the board directed me to get draft ballot language for the library millage, and with coordination of legal counsel Zappa, it is in the packet and before you, and looking for approval. Well, but I will read what the proposal will say, which will be on the ballot in November.
Sure. Randy, or Ernie?
We have a resolution, and we also have the ballot language.
Yeah,
Is that two motions?
No, they go together.
Okay.
The resolution is what authorizes the ballot language.
And the language is automatically included.
Correct. The ballot proposal, which will be in the November ballot, will read, shall the previous voted increase in charter millage in the amount of $1 in each $1,000 of taxable value reduced to .9061 mil, which is .9061 on each $1,000 of taxable value by the required millage rollbacks be renewed in the amount not to exceed .9061 mil, .9061 on $1,000 of taxable value and levied for a period of 2 years, 2018 to 2019 inclusive, to be distributed to the Peter White Public Library for the purpose of providing library services to the residents of the Charter Township of Marquette. The estimated revenue the township will collect in the first year, if the millage is approved and levied, is approximately $223,296.67, and it's either yes or no. I'll make a motion to approve the library ballot language resolution.
Support.
Any comments?
Roll call.
Okay, Randy?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
No.
Trustee Marks?
No.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2.
Okay, thank you.
So that, I will, now I will move this to the county clerk for, it will be put on the November ballot.
What's the first thing we have on the ballot?
Um,
First thing that's-
Yeah, it's the first proposal from the township that will be on our ballot in November. I'm working on ballot language for the next meeting, which will be for the fire and police millage. So I'll have that next meeting for you. And if that's approved, that'll also go on the November ballot.
17. Okay, I got that on the next agenda. Okay, that was easy. 7C is policy 2.5, financial condition and activities. This was discussed at the April meeting. And then policy 3.5, those were the two items we discussed at our work session. And we are, by our policy governance, this was recommended on the agenda calendar. And we did have a work session so that we could talk a little more in depth on it. But we will kind of highlight what the discussion was so that we have it part of our minutes in our packet. Policy 2.5, like I said, was financial conditions and activities. On the agenda, the calendar agenda, it's recommended that we talk about this 3 times a year. And I'm going to suggest that for next year, maybe we just talk about it once during the budget session and once in the spring, because we do keep track of our financial situation pretty regularly, and the manager gives us updates. I don't know that it's necessary to talk about it 3 times a year. So I did take it off of the individually discussed calendar for, let's see, that was October. So I took it off. But now, that doesn't mean we can't talk about any of this or somebody can't bring something back and put it on the agenda. But, you know, the fewer things we have to repeatedly discuss, the better. Then policy 3.5 was our little lengthier discussion. That's board, commission, and community linkage. And part of our policy governance calendar has us picking different things out of the policy manual that we follow and discuss each one of them and get updates for those of the public who are not real familiar with policy governance, keeping track of what the staff and the manager are doing by reporting back to us. So the first thing was, there are 4 things that were recommended in the policy governance manual that we discuss, which we did. And the first thing was to have annual meetings. And the 4 groups that were recommended were Planning Commission, the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, and the MTBA, which is the Marquette Township Business Association. And it's also recommended that we meet with them the 11th month of our calendar year, or of our year. So in this case, we'd have a calendar year, so that would be November. So I am in the process of putting that together. The consensus was, but I want to make sure that this is what the board wants to do, because you've had time to think about this, whether or not we do want to meet with these groups. Now, the first one, or actually the 4th one, the Township Business Association, we have periodic meetings with them already. So that's kind of already taken care of. The Planning Commission, I've always thought that we should meet with them at least once a year, and I would like to see that happen. The Zoning Board of Appeals and the DDA, I don't know personally if that's necessary that we meet with them, because their responsibilities are so different. They have, not that the Planning Commission doesn't have legislative authority behind them too, but, you know, if you feel like we need to have conversation with those 2 groups, we are dealing with their issues when they come up. We've just gone through all the DDA things of expanding the borders, the boundaries. And so we're up to speed on that. And the ZBA, we haven't had any issues come before that board. But the Planning Commission, I think, is pretty important to have a conversation with. And after the master plan is done, maybe that might be a good time. Maybe it's November, December, when we can sit down and talk about it. So I just kind of want to get a quick consensus. So do you want me to put that together, or do you not like that idea, or what are your thoughts?
you're working on the detail part of it. Do you want the policy 2.5 adopted tonight?
3.5. It's, the policy's been adopted. All I'm looking for is direction as to how, if you want to continue to do
Okay,
this.
Pardon me for a minute.
That's okay. So if you want me to set up a meeting with the planning commission, you don't think that's important, do you want to talk to the DDA or the ZBA?
The ZBA is kind of unique, and it has, it's the one committee that operates under state legislative authority, and its decisions, if challenged at all, must be taken to circuit court. There's no other option for someone who doesn't approve of the finding of the, and I've been on the planet, or on the ZBA since 2007, and there's never been one determination made by the ZBA, an emotion, never been challenged and never been taken to circuit court. So I think that what goes on there is not something that can be talked about in advance of any meeting. It has to be left to that body to make the decision, and then they pass that on to the zoning administrator who's there. And incidentally, that's the one place that if someone challenges action by our zoning administrator, that's the body that would take a look at it. So, but they do not meet frequently because, frankly, our ordinance is in very good shape and is followed religiously. It's only the exception of the rule, usually, where a piece of property, because of the existing ordinance, does not allow it to be utilized to its fullest. And that's the challenges that mostly come to the ZBA. So I just don't think it's something where the board can get into a whole lot of discussion with. And there's not much the ZBA can disclose about their personal history of that. It's all put together, capsulized, and if challenged, taken to circuit court.
Really, it'd be out of our hands.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of report would you give, John? We can't discuss it, because it's out of our hands.
Pardon?
We couldn't discuss it because it'd be out of our hands.
That's right.
Well, you do get reports. I'm sorry, I mean, you get reports. I report in my manager's report if there's anything scheduled or what the decision was, and you also get a report from the ZBA itself for its hearings.
We give, it's because you don't meet that often that you don't see reports that often. But reports in detail come from the ZBA, and they disclose in full, in the motions, it's capsulized as to exactly what happened and why it was granted, if it was granted.
Randy?
Yeah, I think at the work session, we just said we'd like to meet with the planning commission at least once a year. The DDA, at least probably maybe once. And the business association, we're meeting with them quarterly now. So I think those were the three that we decided we wanted to meet with.
Yep.
And that doesn't need a motion, it just, we decided that. And I think the supervisor should get that set up, or we get it in a calendar format. And so now, because if we meet in November on it, then we can get the dates now.
Okay. I will take care of that part. Is that your hand, Pete?
I just had a question about the road commission. It'd be nice to meet them in the fall, so we can plan spring projects that's concerning us. You know, and then we could probably do it twice a year or something like that. Because he's always said, give me enough time and I can work on things. Well, meet him in the fall, talk about spring projects.
Are you thinking these would be work sessions? Planning commission and maybe the road
Or
commission?
if he just wants to come to the meeting, I mean, and give us the opportunity to talk to him.
How's that sound? Add the road commission on?
The county road commission we talk about?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If,
Yes, Dave.
Where would you fit the road commission under? That would come under what, 353? They certainly couldn't come under 351. They're not a committee of the township.
Well, it's community linkage, that's part of it. That comment.
Be under 353. Dave's correct.
Authority.
Okay. County authorities, yeah, they would be.
And I personally don't see why you wouldn't want to meet with the other under 351, why you wouldn't want to meet with all four of those at least once a year. There is a whole section in the zoning that covers the ZBA. It'd give everybody a better understanding of what goes on there. The same as the DDA, it gives, I mean, you know, if you meet with them once a year, at least gives you a better idea of what they're looking at and what, a little better understanding of what their duties are and where they're headed.
Well, I imagine we're gonna have a DDA meeting coming up now that the boundaries have been changed.
Yep, I understand that, but you're just talking policy here.
Prior to that, we didn't have anything to talk about, so there wasn't any need to have a meeting, but now there's something going on. I don't know about the ZBA. I mean,
I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to express is I don't know that has to be a specific thing to talk about as opposed to going over duties and responsibilities and where things need to be changed or adjusted or, I mean, it's a matter of keeping in touch with your committees.
the only reason I recommended that was because we can't do anything with them as far as having it as a learning session to each, you know, doesn't matter to me.
It's called linkage for a reason.
We could do all of them, you know, but I'm talking.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, we could do all of them like in one day. Give them each
Yep.
20 minutes or half an hour, if you wanted to. That's why I'm bringing this up, to see what your thoughts are.
I just don't think it's unreasonable to touch base with each one of those committees specifically once a year. In the ZBA's case, maybe it'd just be a really short meeting, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to touch base with your committees at least once a year.
Okay. John?
For anyone that's interested in the responsibilities of the ZBA, it is in detail what the responsibilities are and what they must conduct their meetings under. It's in the township ordinance. It's at the back of it, and you can read. That's exactly what each new member of the ZBA is handed and told. This is where we operate. This is what we can do and cannot do, and this is what we must do if we are to meet the mandate of the legislative section of the legislature that has passed what we're allowed to do and what we're not. So it's all in detail in the ordinance.
That might be a good discussion to have, especially with the ZBA and the DDA, with the new board. And
That's my
and
suggestion.
maybe you don't have to meet for the next 4 years or something, but as far as an educational component, it's probably not a bad idea.
But unknown about other committees, this one is done in detail in the ordinance.
Actually, I'm putting some information together on all the committees for you guys. In fact, I think it's done. Andrew was helping me with the binders. Ernie?
I think as Dave said, if we just meet with them and touch with them, maybe it'll take 5 minutes, we're done and over with, and go to the next one. At least give a little background that what they've done and where they're going and what they have to do when something does come up. 10 minutes, we're done and move on.
Okay, sounds good to me. So, I'm sorry, Road Commission. I saw PC. Okay.
Lynn? Can
Yes,
I
sir.
ask, Trustee Marks, have we ever sent anything to the circuit court in all the years you've been on?
Beg your pardon?
Have we ever moved anything on to the circuit court?
We, Roger has something to add.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, you periodically have some things.
No,
I'm thinking of about 3 in the last 10 years.
Okay.
It's fairly seldom.
None in the last 7.
Well, that's good.
That means the ordinance is working. Ernie?
Really, it is not the ZBA that sends it to circuit court, it's the individual, because they did not like what happened.
They disagreed. You recognize the names.
Okay. So 352 talks about having permanent liaisons with, in this case, the Township Business Association, the DDA, the ZBA, and the Planning Commission. And we do have those already. This board, or maybe it was the previous one. Yeah, I think it was the previous one. Passed a motion that the treasurer will be a permanent liaison to the Township Business Association. So that stays beyond Ernie's tenure. The DDA, we have me, that, and besides the manager who gives reports, or if Roger has something, when something else comes up. ZBA, we have John, and the Planning Commission, we already have Dave, so I don't know that there's anything different we have to do with that policy. So I think that one's okay. The third one is joint work session with the city to discuss Heartwood was recommended. It seemed like there was another one. Yeah, that's the one that says school boards, K through 12, bordering municipalities, county authorities to promote regional linkage. We talked about this quite a bit at the work session and decided that there were no other entities that we were interested in meeting with, other than, like Dave suggested, the road commission now. But the consensus at the meeting too, and after when I was talking to Randy, was that if anything were to come up with the Heartwood, because the discussion, the question I posed was, do we want to meet with the city about Heartwood properties, since they're in the process of talking about a lot of the issues with all the land that they've got in their city boundaries. Do we want to talk about Heartwood, and do we want to talk about public works, utilities being specifically water? And the consensus was that we did not want to do either, but that if anything were to happen with the Heartwood, that maybe would come to the staff, the planning commission, that it would come directly to the board, that anything involving Heartwood's property would be discussed at board level first. So, any comments or issues with that, or suggestions?
You said it well.
Okay. So you want to leave the road commission on there? Get a hold of them for fall too sometime? Okay. 354 is permanent dates with government reps, was the note I wrote. So it says, in addition to regular written communication, the board will make every effort to set up annual meetings with local legislators. So I'm communicating right now with Sarah Cambenzi's aide, and he had chosen August 8th. She would like to come August 8th and do a privilege comment, so I already have that on the agenda for that meeting. And I asked him if he could help me set up, I know Pete had done this a lot in the past with the Fearsome Foursome, Kivala, Deonda, McBroom, and, what did I
Casperson.
miss? Yes, Casperson, thank you. And that was very effective. It was a nice public forum in the community room, and it was just a question and answer and an update legislatively. So he's going to help me put that together and figure out who, depending on the time of year, who's available, who's in power at the time, who's in office. So he's going to work on that. So if there's anything else you want to think about, I emailed Jerry Corkin too, the county board, and asked if we could get together with them, and told him I was going to recommend that to you guys too. So does that sound all right to visit with the county board too?
Well, at least with our reps.
Yeah, at least the two, at least till 2020. I'm gonna end up back with one. Okay, so that sounds good. Anything else on those items? Okay, thanks. 7E is discussion on the 30-acre parcel purchase on the Well Road. So, Randy, do you want to introduce this, or does Roger just want to go with it?
Well, this is actually coming from Kirk. And what we're talking about is at the Grove Street end of our Well Road is a 30-acre parcel that has been for sale for quite some time. Township has looked at it periodically and have recommended purchasing it periodically. However, their price is way, way, way above market value. As you'll recall, when we bought the Wellfield property, it was $2,500 an acre. The current proposed selling price is $8,000 an acre, $240,000 for the 30 acres. Certainly, we can't pay that, couldn't pay that. So a private individual is in the process of acquiring the property and has some requests. The sale agreement for the property that we bought from the original owners provided several perpetual easements. One is for 2 access points to our well road, not more than 2. And the other is that we maintain the road since it's our well road. It's a private road, basically. So the prospective buyer has made several requests that you do have in a communication from Superintendent Page. It does indicate on there that Roger has approved that. I don't believe he's actually approved it. I think he simply reviewed it. But there are some concerns, and I'll let Roger speak to those since he's been talking with Kirk.
Yeah, that's correct. I did not approve it.
Is that-
What I approved was that it come to the board because I issued just an oral opinion that it was not within the authority of the Department of Public Works Director to act on the request, nor was it certainly within the realm of your legal counsel's ability to address it. I simply approved that it be placed on the agenda for some type of a consensus. But basically, connecting to the water line, that is something that is within the full authority of your Director of Public Works and the Water Department. But the proposal, as I understand it, is the first gate off of Grove Street is a fixed locked gate at this point, and the prospective purchaser would like to make that a gate that he can open and close remotely with just like a garage door opener, so he doesn't have to get out of his vehicle as it comes and goes. The concern that there is that that gate really does need to remain closed and locked all the time because there are DEQ requirements and criteria on the well field, the area surrounding the well field and so forth. There are a lot of restrictions on that, so limiting access is quite important. Now, it is my understanding there are a couple of other gates on the road, but I'm not entirely clear where those are in terms of if this gate is open. So, Kirk had indicated to me that he has no particular objection as long as there is a mechanical override. The township must have access through that gate 24/7 at all times because that's one of our water supply sources. We just have to get in there for maintenance or for any number of reasons at any point in time.
Fire and rescue has to be able to respond to incidents that might occur with bikers, hikers, walkers, whatever hunters.
So while the board may be able to approve or disapprove of this in concept, the board would also have to maintain the full authority to either approve or reject of any plan of what's this gate going to look like, how is it going to be operated. If the location is going to change, has to have the final say on where it is, things of this nature. That's what I suggested be brought to the board for suggestion. There was nothing for me to approve. It was a question of indicating it's a proper subject for discussion so that someone can get back to the gentleman who's asking what the township's position is on it. Randy is correct. We own the property, we own the road, but this 30-acre parcel does have a perpetual easement, the right to come and go across the road. So it's not a matter of saying that the person can't use the gate. That is not an option. They have a legal right to come in and out of the gate. Altering or revising the terms of that is, the terms have to be reasonable, is what a court would say if it were challenged for some reason. But there is nothing that says that it does or doesn't have to be a remotely operated one. This is a request that's being pursued by a prospective purchaser.
Right. And as Roger mentioned, we certainly have an interest in ensuring that there is restricted vehicle access on the road. So the gate does have to be something that would be all the time closed. Keeps getting hit. It would all the time be closed unless it's actually being used at that point in time. Vehicles are not, it's a private road, it's not a public road. We allow people to utilize it, but it's not a public road.
My problem with the remote is that we know that garages can be opened with somebody else's remote control. It's just not quite as safe as having a key or some kind of a lock or a padlock or combination. I don't know, this kind of makes me nervous. Dave?
There's a couple things that jump out at me when I read this is we're accountable to maintain the road that he's using. What happens in the wintertime if we don't plow it to his satisfaction or soon enough? And he's suggesting in the letter that he be allowed to do the alterations to the gate at his expense. I would think the only way you have any control over that is if you do the alterations and he pays for it. That's the only way you can keep control of what's going on with it. I do have some concerns if you can open this thing remotely and just leave it open. Or if you have to take some precautions to make sure that when he opens it, if there's a timer on it so that it closes. But having said all that, I see no reason why the manager can't work all this out with the gentleman and come back with whatever he comes up with.
Well, and quite frankly, the other concern that I have is that, as most other residents would likely be having events at this location, and once the other individuals are inside the gate, they have free access to our well field, and they have free access to the wellhead protection area, and we lose total control of what goes on in there. So I have a bigger issue. It's one of the reasons that I always felt that we should have acquired that piece of property so we can control it, because once that gate is breached with a vehicle, we have no control of where that vehicle goes. None. So if the board is inclined to do something along those lines, my preference would be to move our gate past where his driveway is going to be and reinstall the gate.
Yeah, we're just going to ask that if you could do that.
I was wishing we had a map to kind of see.
Well, the problem we have is that the easement, and I was involved in the negotiating of that easement at the time we acquired our Wellfield property, and it's the same group basically that's selling the property now, was twofold. Number one is, what is the definition of maintaining the road? And it was not at any particular time that somebody else might want the road to be plowed. It was when we were maintaining the road. It's our road. We're not going to be at their beck and call to come whenever they want the road plowed, if they're having an event or whatever. And the second thing is maintaining restricted access. Yeah, there is walk-in access now and there's bicycle access, but there is not vehicle access, and that's by design. We have a municipal well field that we have to protect, and a wellhead protection area that we have to protect and ensure that it is not damaged or fouled. So we definitely have some concerns with that 30 acres development. There is a gas line that crosses it. There are at least 2 NTN bike trails that cross it. There are more issues here than just a residence.
How far would the gate move, do you know? Is it just like 10 feet or?
The only thing I've seen is a rough drawing of where a proposed driveway could be, but under the easement, it could be anywhere within the face of that 30 acres, not more than 2 sites.
Is there a road yet to his property? Or would he be doing this, building it contingent on whether the gate comes or changes or moves?
Well, it's where he wants to put his driveway, and there's nothing that says that we can't direct where that driveway is on our road. I don't believe. Is there any restriction of us saying, here are the 2 access points you have? It simply says there's 2 access points.
I don't have the actual easement in front of me. It would depend on the wording, and any restriction that we would place on it, again, has to be reasonable, regardless of what the wording is. So we'd have to take a look at that.
There is a specific front footage on the road, specific length, and that it's a square. It's a perfectly square 30 acres. So I don't know what that measurement is, but there is a specific measurement along the road.
I didn't see any kind of a time frame here that he's requesting, so we don't have anything that we need to work on.
Well, I think
Tomorrow
what I saw, I just saw the memo just now, and what I saw in there was that there's some kind of a reference to a due diligence period ending Friday of this week. I don't know that the person has actually acquired the property as yet. I think they're doing investigation and they have until Friday to decide, is what I'm reading. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But
That's
what it
my
looks like.
interpretation also.
So we could come up with 240,000 and buy it
Well,
by Friday?
We
He
would
has
have
an
difficulty with that, because
Yeah,
by
I know.
statute, we can't pay more than what the property is worth, and it's worth $2,500 an acre. That's what it's been appraised at, not 8,000.
Ernie?
If we happen to request that the gate be moved, the road is still there, whose road is that?
It's ours. It's our road.
So anything done to that road, we have to provide the okay to do it.
Correct. It's our private well road from Grove Street all the way down to the well field. That's our road. It's a driveway. It's a private driveway for the well field. That's why it's gated.
We have to do no upgrade, no nothing to it, and
Just
this
maintain it.
buyer has to live with what the road is at this point in time and whatever it's gonna be in the future.
The agreement when this was negotiated is that we would maintain the road, and that means maintain its current status, basically, its current surface, gravel, which is what it is. It's a packed gravel road.
I think the moving the gate may be an option, so we get out of some of the problems with that too, so I don't know.
Kate?
I would just like to have, explain very correctly that we don't maintain the road as far as, they want blacktop and all the other plowing. You can't just call up and say, I want the road plowed, because we have other duties too for their people, so.
But we do keep the road open. I mean, we
Yeah.
keep the road open because we have to get back to the well field on a daily basis, but we're not gonna be there at 4 o'clock in the morning because he has to be to work at 5. I'm
Right.
sorry. That's not what we're doing. Well, we maintain it when our folks come on, which is, I believe, 6:30. They come on duty in the wintertime, and they plow the road because they have to get back to do
Right.
tests and take samples, maintain the wells. But I mean, these are things that need to be understood. It's no different than, when we have properties that come for sale next to the park. We're not moving the park because you buy a house next to it, and we're not changing the operation of the park. You're buying next to a park. These folks are buying next to a private driveway with an access to that driveway. That doesn't mean we're going to improve it. It doesn't mean that we're going to blacktop it, and it doesn't mean that we're going to change our operation to suit them them residing there. That's my position unless the board overrides it.
No, I think that's.
Don? Did he have his
would-
hand up first? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's, well, it's really not, it's the board's business, but we shouldn't guess where the gate's gonna go and everything. So I'd like to move that we direct staff to negotiate with the buyer, access points within that 30 acres.
Motion and support, go ahead.
I would like to also have the attorney get involved with all the legal aspects of it, with what he has heard tonight.
I assume staff will have the attorney also.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
So Randy, you have the authorization to deal with the person.
Okay. 8A, we didn't have anything pulled from the consent agenda. We did, but we read it. That was the only thing. Committee updates?
Couple quick ones. Planning Commission, the master plan review is on hold, waiting for the citizen survey statistics to be tabulated so that we can move on with that. And we should be looking at the results of that on the July 11th meeting. We did do a special use permit public hearing at the June 27th meeting. It was to approve a special use permit for a solar electrical system on Morgan Meadows. At the conclusion of the public hearing, there was no public comment, and the special use permit was approved. And again, the 2017 or the 2018 survey should be to the Planning Commission on the 11th, and hopefully that will get it to the board at their for their meeting on the 17th. Marquette's detail and zoning compliance. An agreement has been tentatively reached between Marquette Detailing and the residential neighbor to the east with respect to an approved separating buffer yard. Work continues between the zoning administrator and Marquette Detailing to clearly define and ensure compliance with the general business zoning requirements. Capital improvement projects request, CAP requests were received from Public Works and Planning and Zoning. There are a number of comments expressed concerned a lack of justification, forecast life expectancy, and that was sent back to Public Works and the zoning department for our planning department for response. We're hoping to meet with the superintendent of Public Works at the July 11th meeting. And they did take up the discussion of private poultry within a urban residential zoning district. And after a review of the discussions and opinions that were expressed at the last time that this issue was brought up, the decision of the Planning Commission was not to move forward at this time with an amendment to allow poultry in urban residential. The Recreation Committee, Activities and Recreation Committee, where they're already presented at the June 19th meeting. However, just an update on Lions Field. I'm sure everybody's aware that project is nearing completion. The swing set is in. The walking path has been completed. The restoration is being, as well as restoration around the disturbed areas of the pathway, and we're just waiting for the grill stations and the picnic tables. That should be completed by mid-July. And tonight's road committee meeting was canceled because it was so close to the 4th of July and there was no pressing agenda items. Hint, hint. And that's it.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave? Okay. We have no committee appointments tonight. Public comment? We lost our public. Announcements? Anything to share? Yes, Randy.
Any resident wanting to vote in the August primary has to be registered to vote by July 9th at 4 o'clock, or you can't vote.
That's a good update. Anything else? Okay, manager's report?
Well, right off the bat, First of all, I wanted to give a big thank you to Trustee Wiegand and to Mike Springer for all the work that they did with the pathway installation, and particularly with the installation of the swing set recently at Lions Field. Last Thursday, we had a pretty well-attended event involving all three Rotary clubs, Dave, Mike, Jason, Isaac, and quite a few others, basically, that spread a pretty good-sized truckload of wood chips in about an hour and a half, in fairly good production. So the swing set was finally completed, installed, and hung and occupied last Thursday evening, and it's been pretty busy ever since. So just a big thank you for that. The DDA boundary expansion, the board passed the ordinance on second reading at your last meeting. It was published in the June 27th issue of the Mining Journal and was in effect upon publication, so that has been completed and it's done. Camping ordinance, same thing. You passed the camping ordinance at your last meeting. It was published June 23rd in the Mining Journal. It took immediate effect upon publication. Sheriff's Department was notified. We're in the process of having signs made that will be posted at the entrances, all of the known entrances, and along the Iron Ore Heritage Trail for the properties that we own. Excuse me. Community Events Committee has been busy. We have excuse me, Community Day at Lions Field coming up on Saturday, August the 4th. It'll actually start on Friday with softball tournaments that'll probably run through Saturday and possibly even Sunday morning. We don't have a final count on teams as yet. Be very similar to what we did last year. It's a very family-friendly event. However, this year there will be no dogs allowed on the grounds, on the premises. We had so many complaints last year and actual issues with dogs not being quite so friendly with others. So there will be no dogs allowed. If you bring your dog, you will be turned away this year. We will have inflatables for the kids. They are going to be on the ice rink this year, so we avoid the issue of running cables from the power poles to the inflatables. We had some issues last year with disruption of the cables. So they will be housed in the ice rink, so it'll be somewhat controlled. Static displays, state police will be there again this year with their fingerprint and ID kit for children. It's just going to be a great day. Super One will be there cooking the food for us. Ice cream vendor will be there. So starting at 10 o'clock, Saturday the 4th of August, all day long till 10 at night. Music all day long. Whole lineup of different kinds of music this year. A variety, wide variety for everybody. So as Dave mentioned, the improved amenities of the field will be finished about the middle of July, so that'll all be in place and ready for August 4th.
Fire department?
Fire department will be there as usual, as always.
Thank you.
Ready to respond. Equipment will be there for you to take a look at. The ambulance will be there. The rescue vehicle will be there. Fire department staff will be there to answer any questions that folks have, and hopefully they won't get dispatched. Last year they did right at the end. They got dispatched, but that just means somebody's having trouble, and we hope that doesn't happen. Let's see, what else? Anything else? One other thing, any of the board members that are interested in going to MTA's Upper Peninsula meeting, that's coming up. Lois asked me to remind you that July 16th is the cutoff for early bird registrations. So if you intend to participate in that, get in touch with Lois before the 16th so we can get the early bird discounts.
That's the one in Escanaba, right?
That's correct. Actually, Harris, I think, is what it's called.
Especially for you
throw
folks
that in.
that
I
didn't get to
I didn't know
go
about
to
that.
the state, if you can do it. Pete?
Also, on the events committee for August, for community days, they're gonna have a 2-hour pickleball clinic, just to explain about pickleball and show how to do it. That'll be on the north side of the ice rink, just for 2 hours from 2 to 4. They're gonna have some point-of-sale material, just explaining what it is and stuff like that, so it'd be kinda interesting. If you wanna know about pickleball, the fastest moving sport now, I guess. And I thought it was just for older people. There's some younger guys in there too, and it just, I don't know why they aren't playing tennis, but they really enjoy it. I'm surprised, so I'm happy for them.
Does he have a uniform?
No uniform necessary, so you can play.
Play. Ernie?
Just a question on manager, on wood chips, was that for the whole area or just for on the swings?
No, actually, the swings were excavated to meet, handicap requirements of 12 inches deep packed. But we had enough, we ordered enough that we also refreshed all of the other wood chips around the climbing structure as well.
'Cause I know when I had my grandkids over there, I noticed that they were getting compressed and everything else, all that, too, so.
I don't know why, but at the bottom of the slides, they seem to get a little compressed. But yeah, they've all been refreshed. New
There's no
new
water at
top
the
coat
bottom
over
of
all
the
of
slide
them.
like they normally
No,
have down.
no water, no water. But yeah, the whole area was refreshed. We had a pretty sizable load of chips that came.
Lynn, what were the dates on that conference again? August?
First and second.
Yeah, it's the 1st and 2nd of August. And again, I want to thank the 3 Rotary clubs for making that all possible through their grant and through the work they had. I didn't take a head count, but there had to be at least 20 members of the 3 Rotary clubs that came out Thursday night to help spread the chips.
We need to do, I think Mike mentioned it, some kind of a thank you to them too, when everything's finished.
Yeah, and there is going to be a sign basically indicating that that they were the benefactors of that particular amenity at the park.
Ernie?
Would it be something to send a letter to the editor thanking them for what they've done in the township? So it gets into the paper.
There are going to be several pictures that have been submitted, so there's going to be a story in the at least an article of some sort in the Mining Journal about it.
Anything else for the manager? Okay, Randy, let's review motions. We only had 2 or 3.
Okay, actually more, but
Extra.
yeah. Consent agenda was approved. The approval of the regular agenda was approved. That was amended with the item there. Third motion was to approve the Metro Act right-of-way. Fourth motion was to approve the library millage. The fifth motion was to direct the staff to negotiate with the buyer access to the 30-acre parcel on the Well Road. And that's it. No action items.
Okay. So future agenda-wise, we'll have Sarah Kimbenzi for a privileged comment August 8th. And we will maybe have some survey details for the July 17th meeting. And we will discuss 2 ballot proposals possibly also on the 17th.
Yeah.
Right, the next meeting.
Yeah, well, I'd like to get them on the agenda for the next meeting. I think we're still okay the first meeting in August, but we're pushing it. So I'd rather have it for next meeting. So I will get with our attorney next week if he's available to get those done.
We should talk about 3.6 and 3.7 also. Do you want to schedule a work session for those sometime toward the end of the month, or?
Well, this is a 5 Tuesday month, so we're gonna have 3 weeks between meetings. So maybe one of those Tuesdays or something.
You've suggested that we not take up board time to have those. It was an hour and a half, I think, last time we covered these 2. So our next meeting's the 17th. That's when we really should bring them on, put them on the agenda. But that means we'd have to meet sometime between now and the 17th. We could probably do it in an hour. What do you think? What's your schedule look like? Well, speaking of schedules, I found out today, I don't know if any of you had signed up, I think maybe Pete did, for the AMAR training on the 11th, because I told the assessor that I was going to try to be there again. I had gone to the first one, and she said unless I'm actually registered, I'm not allowed to attend. So I just want to make sure if you guys wanted to try to attend that, you do have to actually register for it, because I've been giving you reminders just in case.
That comes from the state. The state does not want anyone who's not registered sitting in on the course.
So she's gonna send me the registration and see if I can still sign up. If not, so I just wanted to make sure if you guys were gonna try to do that. So what do you think, meeting-wise? Work session-wise? You wanna try like next Thursday, or?
After, what, 2 or 4, something like that you're talking about?
Yep, doesn't matter.
Randy, how's that with you?
Anytime after 1.
What date?
I was just looking at the 12th.
12th.
Then we can discuss it on the 17th agenda. We could even do like an hour and a half schedule, and if we don't use it, like
2 to 3:30?
2 to 3:30, how would that work?
What's the date?
On the
12th.
19th?
Huh?
July 19th,
Oh, 19.
2 to 3:30, does that work?
That's right, no, yeah.
Okay.
That's for what portions?
3-6 and 3-7. Supervisor's role and duties of the elected department heads. Does that sound good?
2:30 to,
2 to 3:30, Thursday, the 19th.
On the 12th.
On the 12th?
12th.
Did I split pages? I'm sorry, I did. I went too far ahead because the board
July-
meeting was there.
On the 12th?
July 12th,
Yep,
2 to
That's what I thought we had said earlier.
I'm so
So-
sorry. I was looking at the meeting on the 17th.
Works out
2 to
well.
3:30, Thursday, the 12th.
Someone has to make a motion for that.
3.6 and 3.7.
I'll move to 12, 2 to 3:30, for the purpose of discussing policy governance.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So one more motion for you, Randy.
Closed session.
Board member comment first.
Oh, okay.
So we got the future items. Yes, board member comment. I had also written down to thank our volunteers. I think we're gonna have to change the swing set to the Dave and Mike swing set or something. Not to discredit any of the other volunteers, but
That's,
those guys were pouring cement and looking for people with shovels and gloves, and I tried to coordinate a few people, but I got kickback on that one. But, yeah, it is pretty amazing what they've been working on. So I just wanted to say thank you.
You just don't want to change the process once he starts.
Don't even
I'm
suggest
sorry.
it, hey?
suggesting I'm stuck in my ways.
Thank God, because you get a lot of work done, Dave. Thank you very much for that.
Mike too, and Michelle helped.
Right,
I
yeah.
understand a lot too. Anything else? Board member comment? Gone? Okay.
I'll make a
Need a
motion.
motion.
I'll make a motion, we moved into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268C for strategy and negotiation session. Connected with negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing.
So done, 7:39 PM.
Well, I need a support for that
Support.
motion.
Just fill in the
I'm not
blanks.
jumping the gun. I'm trying to hurry.
Tari is yes, trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
yes.
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
We're in closed session at 7:40 PM.